Hey! Hi guys, welcome back to a new episode of Miniature Builds. My name is Martin, I live in Denmark and I create art. It's gonna be the next chapter of Miniature Builds and I cannot wait to show all of you guys what I have put out on my sleeve this time. So sit back, relax and enjoy the ride, guys. So in this video I decided to go with a syringe. Because the question is, what does a syringe have in common with a fire extinguisher? They're both splashing water on different skills. And we are not talking about the dragon skills. No, we are not talking about the big thing that flies, have big wings and breathing fire. Some small, some big. That's why this video is super hot and super excited, guys. So I decided to go with a syringe because in this video I'm going to build the fire extinguisher. So exciting, guys. So let's continue. After been working a while on this syringe, I'm gonna fill up some UV resin on the plastic container I have on the table. This crystal clear UV resin comes from a company called Room, and it cures with UV light. As for the top, on the top of the syringe, I decided to go for a cap that was been used to hold contact lens. I used my scissor to cut it round, and then after that I'm gonna use the UV resin to cure it with the lamp and make a solid top. After the curing time with the UV lamp, it's time for sanding it. I'm gonna use my little sander here and gonna get rid of all the cracks and sharp edges. After using the sander, I'm gonna use 160 grit sandpaper, smoothing it out, and finish it with 600 grit with sandpaper. Here I'm gonna bring up another syringe, because I think the top of the one that we just sanded was a little too round for my taste. So I'm gonna go with another proof. I'm gonna cut the top off, and then I'm gonna go for another try. I decided to go for 100 grit sandpaper and sand it really rough and get rid of all the sharp edges. And now, guys, it's time to take the top of the syringe we just cut, put it on the new project. Everything fits and look perfect. And after the sanding on both pieces, I decided to go with my Stanley knife to check if the inside of the tube is smooth or there is some small cracks or sharp edges that we need to get rid of on both pieces. And after that, I'm gonna dip the syringe into the plastic container with the UV resin and start all over with the process. After been going through the whole process like in the start, with using the UV resin, curing with the UV resin lamp, sanding it, smoothing everything till it looks perfect, it's time to make the handle. I'm gonna modify it a little black plastic piece, and after that I'm gonna cut some styrene on my cutter. And here I take a bigger rod of styrene, put it into my drill machine, and then I'm gonna use my files to get the shape that I want, and after that I'm gonna use the leaf saw to cut it. After that I'm gonna use the sandpaper and smoothing out the bottom, and then I'm gonna use some super glue and attach the piece to the top of the syringe. And to make the handle really strong, I decided to go for the crystal clear resin, put it around the handle on top of the syringe, and then cure it with the UV lamp. After the curing, I decided to go with the file to adjust the shape a little bit. After been gluing the black piece on top of the styrene, I'm gonna use the styrene rod, and I'm gonna use the torch gun and heat it up so I can bend it after the shape that I want for the handle. After that, I'm gonna use the smaller file the end around, and I'm gonna make it more flat. And then I will use some super glue and attach the handle to the little black piece. And here's a brilliant idea that I came up with. Because I was trying to use some styrene for the other type of handle, but it didn't work out. So I found this piece. This piece is used to hold the curtains. I don't know what that piece is called, but it's had that perfect shape that I wanted, so I used my plier to cut it. And for this handle, I decided to go for super glue as well, like the first one. Get it to sit really strong and then adjust it with the little round file. After that, I'm going to drill some holes on top of the handle. Therefore, I'm gonna bring my hand drill, and I'm using this micro box set that comes with high-speed steel drill bits. These drill bits comes from 0.3 up to 1.6 millimeters in size, and I can highly recommend it since I'm using this for a lot of miniature projects. After that, little information for all of you guys. We are moving up to side of the handle because now I am gluing the air compression gauge. That is the little round thing that looks like a clock and tells how much pressure there is in the tank. And now guys, we are in the point of the project where we need to prime the fire extinguisher before we start painting it. And I'm using this Vallejo Primer Gray. And I have probably said it many times before, but I am a really huge fan of Vallejo products, and I can highly recommend it for all of you guys. After the primer have been cured and it's hard, it's time to paint. And I'm going to start with giving the base coat of red color. After the red color, we are moving on to the black color, because the bottom handle is black and that's how it goes. And that black color I choose to go with, it's glossy black, because it needs to be shiny. After been giving these two base coats, the black and the red, I decided to go for a brown wash to give it that patina and also make it to look like it stands in a workshop where it's really dusty and dirty. I use a paper towel to dab off the excess of the brown wash. Here I'm gonna go for two colors, the same red one that we just painted with. I'm gonna mix it with some whites and make it more light, because now I am going to dry paint the fire extinguisher. After the dry painting, I am going to go for a transparent red, and I'm gonna mix it with the crystal clear resin and make a small batch, and then I'm gonna brush it on the fire extinguisher to get that shine that I'm looking for. I only went for a couple of drops of the transparent red, since it's gonna be really colorful when you mix it with the resin. And here I'm gonna go for an old gold color to try to replicate the brass they're sitting underneath and around the handle. And after that, I'm gonna go for a old metal silver color to paint that air compression gauge they're sitting on side of the handle. After been painting the air pressure gauge, I'm gonna use this thin steel wire and put it through the hole that we drilled. I'm gonna attach it with some super glue, and I'm gonna cut the length with a plier. And now guys, we are about to attach the fire hose with some super glue. I made the fire hose out of a cable that had the size and the thickness that I was looking for. And here, two tiny pieces of styrene. I'm gonna glue them with some super glue, and then I'm gonna attach it to the fire hose, because in reality, most of the fire hoses are attached to the tank with some magnets. And after I attach the tip of the fire hose, I'm gonna paint the parts with some black color, so it matches the fire hose. And after the black color is done, we are moving on to the label of the fire extinguisher. Here is a piece of professional paper, was printed out on a laser jet printer on a really high quality, so it looks really nice. I'm gonna cut it with my Stanley knife till I have the size that I want. Here I have an empty plastic tube. I'm gonna use that for putting on the label, and then I'm gonna slowly bend it so it gets its shape. After been working with the label on the tube, bending it, rolling it around forth and back a couple of times to get the shape that I want, I'm gonna check it on the fire extinguisher to see if everything's perfect or fits. After checking the label is bent and it looks really nice, we are moving on to the gluing process. In this case, I decided to go for the Mod Podge Matte Medium. The reason why I use this type of glue is because it's like a mix of white glue and lacquer, and it feels like it's really strong when it's been cured. After I got the label to sit properly, I'm gonna use the crystal clear resin and brush it all over to make sure that it sits in place and gets really strong, and also continue having this shiny glow. And to cure it, I'm gonna use my UV lamp, and I'm gonna give it a couple of minutes for make the resin cured. And the last thing we need to do, the fire hose, give it some super glue and attach it to the tank of the fire extinguisher. If you enjoyed this video as much as I did to make it for all of you guys, don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe, guys. It would help me a lot, and thank you so much. See you next time. Bye.